Good morning and welcome back to the Explicit Measures podcast with Tommy and Mike. Hello, everyone, and good morning. Hey, Tommy.
Good morning, Mike. How you doing? 481 in the books. Not too bad.
We're getting pretty close. We're creeping up on 500.
Oh, I know.
What are we going to do for the episode? I don't even know. Send your ideas if you want us to talk about something special for episode 500. I think it's kind of safe to say, Tommy, we're the largest podcast around all things Power BI and data related. We've got regular users. We've got lots of consumption on all the social media platforms. It's been fun to kind of see this thing grow a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember early on in the very early days, I was like, Tommy, we just got to produce more. We just got to go faster. We just got to get more out the door, and it will grow if it's good. And it seems like it's doing pretty well. Anyways, we're still doing this.
Yeah, and honestly, like I said, I just enjoy being able to talk it out too. But it's amazing every time we go. I feel like at a conference, someone comes up to us and says something. People know when I forget to upload one of the audio episodes, they let us know right away.
Oh yeah,
and yeah, we get to see the numbers too. But honestly, if you told me that we'd be the things that we're talking about now, I mean, Fabric wasn't a thing when we started. It was literally just a Power BI podcast.
That's true. Actually, that's very true, Tommy. The first 2 years, I guess. I mean, Fabric's only been out for 2 years, so I remember halfway through going, I think we were debating, should we go into Fabric? Should we talk about Fabric? And now here we are. I think if you look back at our most recent episodes, I think the majority of what we talk about now is just speaking of Fabric and bringing now speakers from across the community into the Fabric, story and hearing what other people are building and learning from people from Microsoft. This is extremely fun. I thoroughly enjoy this.
Dude,
all right.
I absolutely love it.
Jumping in, our main topic today is a mailbag item. So we're going to have someone talking from a mail-in letter. I guess it's not really a mail-in. It's like a form-in letter, right? We don't really mail things anymore. If Tommy, total side note, well, I'll say the topic. I'll come back here to a little rant I have. Mailbag from, I don't know if actually I don't know who it's from, but it talks about fragmented models, how to build unified semantics layers, and what does this look like in lieu of a company that just kind of started, built things kind of haphazardly and got different results. What does it look like to rethink your design of the system? Do you incorporate, if you're a Power BI shop only, do you start incorporating Fabric into your designs? Is that something worthwhile? And we're going to kind of unpack that a little bit here now. Anyways, very excited about this topic. I think this is a good topic, and I think very relevant for many organizations who took a first pass at Power BI and now are rebuilding or rethinking slightly. So anyways, just kind of interesting here. All right, Tommy, a bit of a rant. We say mailbag. Have you ever had an interaction where you are, for whatever reason, something at home, you have to fill out a form, you have to send in some money for the kids at school? I don't know what it is. There's something out there. And they're requiring you to write a check or send something in from the mail. And I'm thinking to myself, this is so archaic. We have digital everythings. Get on board, people. I'm so frustrated. I don't even own a checkbook anymore. And I had to go to the bank and get sheets of checks because I'm too lazy to go get a whole book of checks. I'm like, what's the point? I don't really want to write checks anymore. But there's occasionally, every 4 or 5 months, we have to write a check, which is incredibly annoying to me. It's so dumb.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I switched to a bank that was really online only because I realized that the in-person experience is probably the least important thing of a bank.
Yes.
Especially now.
Yes.
And I have to order checks every so often because especially for school stuff. And then the worst part is my wife's friends, she does some stuff for the kids, and there's other events, and they're all sending checks. I'm like, my wife will refuse to go to Apple Pay or to any of those pay.
Oh, are you kidding me?
I wish I was lying.
Oh, why? What's the resistance to Apple Pay? I absolutely love Apple Pay, honestly.
I know.
Anyway, anytime in our family someone buys something for someone else, or we buy something and we need to reimburse somebody, my immediate go-to is Apple Pay. It is so stinking easy. It is the best. I absolutely love it. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, you would say so. I mean, she doesn't even have autofill for information on her phone. She just, because every time she needs to get something, she comes down. She's like, "Can I borrow your card?" I'm like, "Why?"
Oh my goodness.
Oh
my goodness, Tommy. Tommy, you're living in the Stone Age.
Well, I am not doing that.
Your family
Let's be clear.
Wow. I can't even fathom. I think I have all the things stored on my phone and try to make it as least amount of memory as I need to. Tommy, I got to be honest, I still can't even memorize the codes on the back of the cards for like the security codes. I still don't have those memorized. Like there's too many passwords and secrets and things rolling around anymore. I can't even keep it all straight.
Well, finally, Microsoft Edge is now keeping passkeys in like synced up with your Microsoft account, which is great because from a security point of view, that's
my goodness, I can't stand it. To be honest, Tommy, I have found I really struggle. So this is another security identity thing. And they're talking like passwords and auto filling things out. I have really struggled with the Microsoft Authenticator app. It was really nice when it first came out. I thought this is so cool. I liked how it integrated with Entra ID so easily. And I could just send it a message and then the phone would just show me a number. Dude, I hate it. And now I can't. I have done one phone migration with the Microsoft password app. And all of those token security things that they put on the app, they get stuck in that phone. And you have to, I don't know how to do it. I mean, someone in the chat may be able to like explain to me how to transition from one phone to another phone with the Microsoft Authenticator app. But I have to physically go through every single account and disassociate the MFA and then reassociate it with the new phone. And I think to myself, dude, I've got like 25, 30 different emails that I'm trying to sign in across clients and other things that are all FMA'd together. I'm like, this is insane. I don't want to do that.
Well, once you do set it up, though, it is pretty nifty.
I will agree, but it's the immense amount of pain to transfer from one device to the other device really turned me off from the application. I was like, I don't even like this. And the password app used to be able to save passwords. Can't do that anymore. They turned that off.
You gotta go to Microsoft Edge. I know.
So now I'm like, okay, what is the point of the app now if it only does the MFA portion only and I can't even store passwords and secrets in it? Right. Now it's like, I don't even want to use it anymore. So I basically ditched the whole thing. I am, for better or worse, Tommy, I don't know, some people have opinions about this. I am an iPhone user and I've got all in on iCloud passwords, iPassword.
Really?
It's way better. I have extensions I can use in my browsers. It synchronizes across my different devices. If I have my MacBook Pro or my iPad, it just works in all situations. You make it once, you can make groups of passwords. It's the way it should have been all along. It should just have been this system. This is how it should work. So what Apple's got it dialed on the password management app side of things. Doesn't cost me a dime, and it works really well across all my Apple devices. So I'm like, I'm done.
I mean, but what about your computer though?
It just there's an extension for the browser. And I can just have it right there. Or there's actually an iCloud Passwords app on my computer, and it makes me authenticate with Face ID to the app to get the passwords out of there. I can see everything clear as day, no problem, right in the app. So if I really need to go to the passwords or get those security codes or something like that, it's easy. The autofill on the extension and or my phone works way better because when you did with Microsoft, you had to leave your website to go over to the app to punch in the number or select the number. You don't have to do it anymore. It just autofills it out for you. So if you have the email address you're putting in for the password for the website, email address, and then you put your password, and then it says, okay, we need the authentication code. Can you give us that? So instead of leaving the app, having to go to a different app, punching in the code and coming back to it, hoping that it refreshes and reloads the screen, you don't do that now. You just click the little cell and the little thing says, here, want me to put the code in for you that we already have stored on your device? Yes, please. And you just push. It's so good. It's so good. I like it a lot better.
Well, now that we've gone into being an IT podcast, I might have to look into it again. I've been fine with, I just like things being simple and I never remember my password.
Me neither.
The one that I hate the most actually is having to sign in like a passcode to your email and just waiting for a dumb email to come. But anyways.
Yep. Okay, last kind of pitch on this time. I know you're trying to transition off of this. We're gonna get some news eventually. One other note, I'll just riff on this one as well. do you share passwords with your wife? Like, do you need to like give her passwords for the same accounts to the same things, like the DMV or like, the iPass? I know you're around Chicago. There's like an iPass thing that you have to go
Absolutely
through.
not.
So you make her get her own accounts for everything?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. So my wife and I share some passwords on some things. It's just like, we both log into Amazon with the same account. Like we don't have two separate Amazon accounts. So she's buying things or whatever off of Amazon. I log in with the same login that she does. With the iCloud password, you can have a family member or family shared group of passwords inside the app. And I can just share her a group that says these people in this family unit can have these same passwords. So I can directly give her access to the shared passwords. And so I am IT support for our family. I am. I assume you are too also, Tommy.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, any little thing that comes up.
So there are occasions where my wife will be like, I don't remember the password. I can't get in. I can't log in. Something happened. So I had to come in and troubleshoot what's going on. And usually the story is, okay, we'll just go in and reset your password. She was like, well, I don't know what to change it to. You don't need to change it to anything. Change it to whatever the phone tells you to put it in as, because it's secret. Like put the gobbledygook password in there so you never know what it is and just use the phone to authenticate and you should be good. Well, she doesn't want to do that. So I become password support. And so I am now going through both of our devices and making sure all of the standard phrases or all the little warning symbols that come up next to make sure all of those are gone. So I'm support. And so now I've been slowly going through all of our passwords and updating all of them. So that's like whatever the phone decides is a 16-digit character, letters, numbers, and dashes that it decides to pick out for the day. So you could torture me now, and I couldn't tell you the password or anything anymore. So
I tried that once and it was not a good experience, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep. So since I'm tech support, I'm going to set the pace of like what we're going to use for security, and we're going to do this, and we're going to store everything in the iCloud password thing. And so far, Tommy, I will say I've been very happy with it. There's been very little friction with me going this direction, especially since I play IT support for all the devices in our household and even like our localized family that lives here. I basically IT support for all of them.
Honestly, I've been trying to do Microsoft's everything doing it passwordless, and like just a lot of things are through like
passwordless.
Yeah, that's what they say. But basically, with their account, like with passkeys, everything I set up a passkey
with a passkey now. Yeah, but that depends on the website that you're going to, like or site that you're going to. It depends on if they actually have that set up. Most are going that direction now, but some don't have that yet. But that passkey. And that passkey is only stuck on that device that you're on. So like if you're on your PC, it's a passkey for that one.
I know. I created it on my PC, on my phone.
Yes, correct. And yet, but now again, you're going to face the same problem, Tommy. If any one of your devices go down and you need to rebuild the device or get a new device, like let's say you get a new phone.
Yeah, I mean, I literally had to get a new PC over this weekend. So
then none of your passkeys are going to work. You got to reset, delete them all and set up. Yeah. So you got to reset them all up now.
Nope. All I had to do was, since I already had a passkey in my phone, because you can create a passkey per device, was when I was signing into GitHub, I just scanned my phone on the screen. Then I was logged in. Then I said, create a passkey on this machine. And then I had it on my desktop. And that was great.
But I don't think you understand what I'm saying, though.
I don't think I am either.
I'm saying now that you have a new device, your passkeys just don't come with it. You have to now, every site you go to, it's going to be this little extra hook or step to sign in. And you have to set up all the passkeys again.
For my PC, yes.
Correct. And so that's my friction point here, which is like, I mean, I understand why that's maybe faster and okay, fine. Like for some things, it makes sense. On the other hand, I'm like, I don't want that headache. I just want it to let me in. Like scan my face, let me in. Let's just go. Like it should not be this very difficult thing. And I understand it needs to be secure. I get that. But like it should not be so much friction that it's difficult to run.
No, we completely agree. Okay. I think it's time we actually get to
let's get to our
discussion.
Anyways, total ranting. Yeah, Tommy, I totally agree with you. All right, let's talk about our news. You have a news item that you threw down here, Tommy. Let's go through the news item. What are you talking about here? I'll put this in. This will be in the description of the video.
So this is on the Power BI blog, the official blog. And the name of this is an interesting name. Microsoft named leader and outperformer in the 2025 GigaOM radar for semantic layers and metric stores. Okay. I've never heard of GigaOM, and I think that you're supposed to say it. And also, I didn't know that was a category.
Well, and also, Tommy, when I look at this graph, like these
if that's what you want to call it,
graph visual, I don't know what you want to call it here. The visual is, it took me a hot second to like, what are we trying to show here? I didn't really even understand. Like, so we have like the magic quadrant from Gartner. We have the Forrester wave, which again, it's kind of like a wave of things, and they kind of highlight the better or the worst sections of the graph. And so it makes kind of sense. This one is using a radar plot. And I'm like looking at this one going, interesting. I'm not sure if I really get their visual. I believe it's supposed to be representing a bullseye. And the closer you are to the center, the better you are with innovation, feature play, maturity, and platform play. I don't understand I don't know how to read this.
GigaOM radar plots vendor solutions across a series of rings with those set closer to the center, judged to be of higher overall value.
Okay, this is like so unintuitive. Okay, fine. Happy that Microsoft made it to the center here. This chart is trash. I don't like this chart.
No. Yeah.
I get that. I get you're trying to make a bullseye, a perfect bullseye on something. I get it. But it's so difficult to think the center of something. It's literally got an x-axis, like a crosshair on it. The center is the highest number point value. So, and you would think normally in graphs, when you do graphs on things in general, the further away you are from the XY coordinate 0, that's 0, 0. So
right, exactly.
We're basically playing golf here. Like, how close can you get to 0? What's the lowest score you can get in this example here? And I'm like, look at this. It's dumb. Anyways. And then they had to highlight like colors on each of the items. And then you have to go look up the colors because the colors, in addition to the position on the graph, mean something as well. It's not like an easy glance. Like, what are you doing?
I mean, like, I don't even know what the metric sets are. This is insane. So anyways, they became, I guess, based on that, they're a leader and outperformer. I can't tell that.
I'm not sure if I'm going to trust the guys who can't really make a graph, but I'm happy that they reviewed all these other tools, but they did compare other tools as well. They were looking at Google Cloud, SAP, Oracle, DBT Labs, which is interesting. I've been hearing a lot of language around DBT. At Scale, which I've heard a number of times about. Cube. I'm not sure if I've heard of Cube before. What is Cube?
I mean, they look like they're an outperformer. I've never heard of Cube either.
Yeah, I'm not sure who Cube is.
So that's interesting. Anyways, so what this, I had actually put this into Notebook LM because I had no idea what this whole thing was. But basically what this whole judging contest is looking at the semantic layer, which is not the semantic layer that we're thinking of. And I mean, it is in Power BI, but enterprise data stacks from traditional business intelligence. And the most significant catalyst that they say for going over the semantic layer is generative AI, yada, yada, yada. So they're basically defining this semantic layer as standardization, complexity reduction, efficiency collaboration. Now, how they do that semantic layer, each person not sure. And I have no idea what a metric store is. Is that just creating measures?
Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit on a tangent here, potentially somewhat, Tommy. A metrics store is basically the semantic model, in my understanding. There may be some other nuances around what the metric store is doing. I think this comes from more of like a SQL standpoint. Like, I have tables, I have relationships, and we need to define a measure, and the measure is some of this column, or it could be something more complex where you're doing like a case statement or some kind of function that's driving a calculation that you're going to use, right? So there's this concept of like you're able to run functions that do some sort of metric or aggregation logic, and then you're just storing all those things in the same place. So in my mind, when I look at these companies, and again, I'm maybe going to be poking a bit more on like at Scale. At Scale does a lot of this. It says, look, you don't really need to define like the actual table, or you can define a table, but hey, this column has a number. This column should have some sort of aggregations on it, and this column should be grouped by these various things. In my opinion, it feels a lot like metric sets that we no longer have anymore. So looking at them,
right. This one.
Here's the dimensions. Here's the measure that this thing would relate to, right? And these dimensions may go with this group of measures, right? That's kind of what it's saying here. It almost feels like a perspective to some degree. But these semantic layers are what we've been, I guess, in my opinion, very comfortable and familiar with, Tommy. We've been doing this for years now with 10 years now with semantic modeling, and that's a definition of how these tables relate, what kind of calculations I want. It's all stored in a single semantic model. Now, what I would argue that Power BI and Microsoft Fabric does not have the strength of is, how, Tommy, we have like a single model, right? We think about the single semantic model, and there's data. There's this mix of like the data in the semantic model, and then there's the semantic layer, the metric side of it. What I think Databricks and Snowflake are doing now, when they're building their own semantic layers on top of stuff. Let's imagine a Power BI file with no data. Okay. Let's just imagine the definition of the tables, the relationships, and the measures, right? And not having the Power BI file contain the data in it. Does that make sense what I'm kind of describing there?
It was almost like a PBR, just the metadata.
Yeah. So if you just had just the metadata of everything and not the actual data, that's what I feel like a lot of these semantic solutions are trying to produce. Look, let's just define the relationships, the column types, descriptions, information about the data that we're going to be using. That way, agentic things can pick them up. You can use chatbots against them, right? It gives more context to other tools that you're going to use to go build stuff with. So that's my impression of like what's going on here with this semantic layers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so. I would be interested in looking at the other competitors there, like especially for, I want to know who At Scale is, and I know what DBT Labs does, but that's usually like that's probably the most crossover from pure development to Power BI. What we usually hear.
I mean, DBT Labs is interesting. I believe they just recently got acquired, I think, by somebody. I think they just got bought out by someone. So DBT Labs was open source. There is a paid level of it, but they just got acquired by somebody. And I'm not sure who, I can't remember who it was, but there's some other big data. Oh, Fivetran. Fivetran just recently acquired DBT Labs. So the open source standard that is DBT Labs, I'm going to assume there's going to be some lesser amount of DBT Labs will be less open source in the future. But my understanding with DBT Labs is, again, it's a very SQL-based language. It's helping you build like semantic layers of things. It's almost like what I liken it to is it feels to me a lot like a materialized views kind of thing, right? Hey, define the structure of what you want, and then you can then read that structure and then produce tables or things off of it based on a pattern, right? And you can have parameters, and you can parameterize dev test prod connection strings. It's like parameterized SQL that you can redeploy over and over again, and it just rebuilds these tables for you automatically. I'm not a big fan of DBT. I feel like it overcomplicates things way too much. And you have to have a really strong team who understands what DBT is. DevOps. And it's a lot more engineering than I think it needs to be in place there. So I think you can get away with solutions that are cheaper and less complicated than DBT Labs. But I mean, it's a commitment. And in teams that I've seen bring on DBT, it's quite the commitment to make sure that you really understand what's going on. And in my opinion, if you just use Databricks, just use Databricks. You don't need DBT in concert with Databricks. Databricks has all the things that DBT does and more. And I think Databricks is a very mature space in this as well. On this GigaOM report, I don't know when it came out here, Tommy. It seems fairly recently.
Yeah.
But I also would say I'd like to see, where did Snowflake fit on this chart? Where does Databricks fit on this chart? Both of those solutions, they may be in preview right now, but both of those solutions are building semantic layer things. I'd be very curious to see how those are going to be listed on the radar.
I'm actually surprised you're right that Databricks is not even on there at all.
I mean, they're not a semantics layer right now, But with their Unity catalog and their positioning around Unity catalog being the single secure object and having data being distributed from there, I see that as being a major point here as well.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, I think this might actually play very well, Tommy, into our next conversation, which is actually the main topic today. So I think it's a good time to transition to
yeah, I think that's perfect.
Okay. So I'm going to kick it over to you, Tommy. Go ahead and read out the mail question of what we got today. And let's unpack a little bit of what this is doing. I think this whole semantic layer designing things is kind of this conversation. So kick it away, Tommy.
Oh, perfect. All right. Here's another great mailbag. Starting out with Power BI, our company's reporting team has been using import mode exclusively, and we have not been reusing models very commonly. There's a lot of redundant data storage, and I'm sure there are many conflicting DAX definitions and model relationships. I've started learning about Fabric, and I'm realizing we will need to rebuild some semantic models from the ground up.
Yes, you should.
I'm not sure our team will have the patience to do things right. I suspect they will dive in and start creating more redundancies, and our work will continue to be fragmented. How can I kick things off on the right foot and influence the team culture to work together with a single source of truth rather than individual sources?
Oh, this is a great question.
I was thinking the same thing. What a great question.
The first half of the question feels all technical. Like, hey, let's talk about technical things. What can we do in a technical space to make this work? The second half of this is, I think, really the crux of the issue here, which is the culture. What does the culture of the team look like? And as you evolve and mature as a company using more Power BI, how do you not only roll out Power BI or continue to adopt and develop Power BI, but how do you do that while adjusting the culture as well? And this is interesting. Okay, so initial reactions, Tommy. What do you think about this?
Well, one of my first things I thought was, you're learning this with Fabric to have a single source of truth, but then the next thing I was thinking was, okay, great opportunity. This is something that we've been, I think, putting on the soundboard pretty consistently with Fabric, is the ability just to quickly create things. But this is I think, a more common than we think, this situation where you're already having the redundancies. If you already don't have the right data culture or process, and then you just get Fabric, well, where do you actually start? I think this, to me, though, this is a great opportunity.
I agree. I think this is a huge opportunity. So my initial thought here is, you're starting to think about Fabric, and you're doing lots of single imports. So these 2 points kind of make it sticks in my mind. You're probably right. You're probably importing the same stuff multiple times, and you don't have master tables of that data. So as I think about this solution, and again, I've gone through this transition multiple times with companies where you start with Power BI and then you're trying to say, okay, we've done enough that it's adding value. We actually need to be a bit more strategic with what's going on here. So my first thought is, think of the Power BI file, the semantic models you have today. You're importing data. Inside that import process, you're doing some transforms. You're shaping the data the way you want. And then the semantic model is then building the relationships between those tables and the measures and calculations for the reports that you're going to be building. So it's kind of like data loading step, then there's modeling step, and then there's servicing step. That same principle does not change. There's no difference between that when you're only in Power BI or whether you move over to Fabric. When you move into Fabric, you can take there's a lot more tooling at your disposal to build bigger, more complex, more centralized versions of those original tables that you had previously. And you can then direct link to them, getting access to multiple semantic models. So this is an opportunity, because if you look at the landscape, and again, I think this is a neat opportunity for them, go after your analytics reporting. Go find where your data, go find the workspaces, go collect the data on who's using what reports, go use the scanner API, go get a list of all the objects in your tenant, figure out how many times each event is being occurring for a view of a report. You'll immediately be able to say, here's the number of events by report that are being rendered. The more events you have on a particular report, the more important that report becomes. So the fact that you already have Power BI established in your organization means you already have a huge wealth of data that you're not probably looking at that can tell you what is effective for your business teams to use. I would start my effort there. And so look at the most used items and then look at those elements and say, okay, how do is there redundancy in the top 15 items that are being used across my tenant? Let's look at that first, because I don't think you can boil the ocean. You're only one person unless you have really big leadership buy-in, which is another one of my points here is if you're trying to steer culture, make sure you go find that executive sponsor that's trying to get this rebuild of the system or this update of things. It's very difficult for the tail to wag the dog, right? It's a bit more effective if you get leadership buy-in that says, look, we've been finding success with Power BI. Let's now build a better data structure. And they come down with the initiative from top down. We're going to start this new proof of concept. We're going to have a bit more rigor. We're going to establish a center of excellence. And we're going to take what we have existing. We're going to take the best knowledge of what we've built and rebuild these things in lieu of Fabric. So we're not doing so many imports. We're going to reuse data. There's some data principles here that I think need to be led from the top that enables the business to start small and slowly drip out access to the rest of the organization.
So it's interesting that you went that way with looking at what we have and trying to remove redundancies that way. I almost am thinking even starting a little more basic here. So
Sure.
Because odds are they're not just going to just turn on Fabric for the team and say like,
I hope not.
Right. Off
not.
to the races.
Yeah, I would not do that.
I would not do that either.
I would make a security group, and in that security group, I would put a couple people who are going to be experimenting with Fabric, and then I would say we need to figure out what our strategy is on how to take our existing stuff and start migrating the data part over to Fabric and see if that's even useful. It may not even be useful.
Right.
I mean, you may not want to go down that route. You may just need to stay with import models and just stay there.
Well, I think for me, this is where the cultural change is in line with a philosophical change or a conceptual change on what you're building, right? So this is a great opportunity to put the lake house as now kind of the central area for our data storage. It's like, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. This is a change for us. What we're going to be treating these lake houses as, the single source truth, whether or not they do the medallion approach or not. Regardless, to me, my initial strategy wouldn't necessarily even be starting with, hey, let's look at all the redundancies and we'll go from there, is kind of making sure everyone understands the importance, the positioning, and where the, lake house lives in terms of business intelligence now. Let's start putting in and building out our most fundamental data into some, initial lake houses. And this is where you see it from that redundancy idea. It's like, hey, everything's going to pull from these lake houses to build our semantic models, yada, yada, yada. So there's also wanting to give the incentive for people just not to say, I'll do it myself. Because sometimes with Power BI, it's like, well, that's slow. I need to do some digital transformations. Like, no. This is storage. This is central repository. And everything we'll be connecting to will be from the lakehouse. So why don't we actually start on our most common data, and we're going to start building out this flow of this new flow of data. And I would start there, so that way they can get a grasp on probably that 60% of data that's in most semantic models. And again, it's a start, because honestly, because you have to teach too. You have to give people conceptual change on what's going on rather than just the technology change.
It depends on what you're doing, Tommy, though. Like, I would agree, like, to some degree, yes. But I would also argue, I would want to ask the question to the business team is, who's in your company building semantic models, right? Is this a central BI team that's building like a handful of semantic models that have a lot of repeated imports on them that is then being distributed to the broader part of the organization? And so is the main consumption method semantic model to reports? Like, are they consuming semantic models? Are they consuming reports? Or is the business building their own tables and imported data? That's kind of what I'm thinking about here. Because when I look at this, this is going to be terms that I'm just going to generally use here, but I'm going to try to explain them as best I can. The way he explains the business that he's using right now is the semantic models are acting like data marts, not the data mart that's getting deprecated, but
or
like a very small like knowledge center that is kind of segmented. And what happens is when you have lots of semantic models that are all using import, you're basically building little knowledge centers, little islands of knowledge, and there may be redundancy and conflicting calculations across those different islands or data marts. When you start thinking about Fabric, you can stand back and say, let's try to unify this and act more like a central data warehousing. And again, I'm using the word data warehouse because that's kind of a traditional term, and Fabric has adopted a data warehouse. We don't need to use the Fabric data warehouse, but I think of it like a data library, right? Here's all the tables and all the things that we care about as an organization. Let's just put that stuff somewhere where we can use it, no matter where it is. So if you move away from this mentality of we're doing these very small solutions to a centralized solution, my hope here would be you can entice the business to use this new Fabric or centralized data storage solution because they get more data, it's cleaned a little bit better, and it's easier to get access and put into semantic models, right? That's the main vibe here. That's the story with why not have just a bunch of little islands? Well, that's just disorganized. The principle here is pull that stuff together, find common elements, and when you see there's a table that's being used 3, 4, 5 times with just slightly different calculations, now you can have the conversation around centralizing to the same thing. Was just in a client recently where business requirements were given to the semantic model layer, and it was a whole bunch of things around date calendars. So date calendars can get quite complex and confusing. The issue that always seems to come up is, I want to compare this year's sales to last year's sales. And then the question becomes, if I'm doing the 13th through the 15th in sales comparison, should I be comparing the 13th to the 15th of last year? Or should I be comparing the same period of time last year, right? So if there's a leap year, like if it's a Monday through Thursday, week 10 of this year, should I be comparing week 10 of last year, the same, Monday through Thursday, right? So you have to really explain what is the comparison. And what we were finding with this company was one department aligned with this definition and said, yeah, this makes sense. A different department said, no, we don't want that. We actually want to compare the 13th to the 13th all the way to the 16th of the 16th. And we said, that doesn't make sense because your dates are shifting. You could have more weekends or less weekends. And so there was a fundamental challenge, a misalignment between two different business teams around the definition of things. And so as soon as you go to centralizing, again, speaking to the point here around we might need to rebuild some semantic models. We have a lot of potentially redundant calculations. We probably have a lot of tables that are being loaded the same way, but maybe different transformations in them. That's where you can address these challenges. And so the whole goal of this is to get everyone more on the same page, and without someone at the top or someone making the decision to say, right, okay, we're going to do the calculation of the 15th to the 16th. That's our comparison, and that's how we will think of it over time. Or we need to say, no, that's not true. We need to be doing same period of time last year comparison to make it equivalent. And so I think some of those decisions need to be talked about because people don't necessarily they're not thinking about that level of depth at all times. And every team is not thinking about that depth. Centralizing this makes those conversations happen. I'll just pause there. A lot of things I said.
So it's interesting you're bringing up already the analytical queries here, where if I'm dealing with the lake house at least, right? And so you're talking metrics, definitions, kind of really the business rules. But I think for the mailback questionnaire, there's more frustration, not just on the DAX metrics, which I think you're dead on there, getting that clear cut. That's through the center of excellence. But to me, I'm going to go back to, I don't know if that affects the lakehouse methodology or approach at all, because you still need to get that data in. You still need to have it cleaned up and trimmed. That scenario that you were bringing up is DAX and is going to be in the reporting,
Well, also, I mean, in both these situations, if you're doing two different imports, one import can be using different M than the second import.
Mm-hmm.
So even during the import mode, you could have the source could be the same, but the resulting table could slightly be different based on what's being filtered out, or something simple like that could actually throw off the numbers substantially between two different imports. And to be honest, Tommy, it's very difficult unless you're looking at the M code line by line and doing checks at the end of the data for those two semantic models. It makes it more difficult to vet that the data is correct in both import modes. So back to this question's credit, you really shouldn't be doing two imports. And again, I'm going to go here a bit more on the licensing part here too, Tommy. If you're in a Power BI Pro or Premium per user, it doesn't cost you any more to do two imports at all. It's simple. You just do them. There's no added cost to you, the user, to import those two models twice.
It's true. This is true.
On the Fabric side, you now are in charge of managing your amount of compute you're using. And so you don't want to do two imports inside Fabric, because now that's double charging you for processing the same data. So even from a licensing standpoint, the whole mentality shifts away from, just redo it, just re-import it, just copy the model, do another import, change what you need to change, boom, done, not a problem, because there's no cost impact on that. And it's that mentality breeds bad behavior. It breeds, I want to say not dissentiment, but what's the word here? It breeds complacency. Like, I'm not going to work hard to fix it and make it the right thing that we need, the one source of truth. It doesn't cost me anything, so therefore it's meaninless. Therefore I can just import it again twice. Not a big deal. So I think Fabric really forces you to start thinking about smart use of your money, capacity consumption. And in this situation, I don't want to process that data twice. If I'm already writing the data down to the lakehouse in a V-ordered table, I don't want to again cause the model to import that data yet again and then spend more money doing an import. That's redundant.
Well, but again, that's why I think the conceptual shift for this team is, especially if they do have access to Fabric, is, well, we're not doing import the same way anymore. We have direct link.
Yes.
And it's like that is the default way. That is how we're building, kind of thing.
Correct. Yes. I agree with that.
Import has been relegated if you were going to discourage import, kind of thing. And, you still discourage in the sense of
you still do it at some level, but I'm thinking to myself, you want to encourage more direct lake.
The default, and what you should be striving for is through the lakehouse, through direct lake. Any really import just becomes outstanding, or I don't want to say niche because that's too extreme, but different circumstances. Otherwise, that way you don't, all the things you were talking about are not going to be as not, I don't want to say as alarming, but again, this conceptual shift. We are building lake houses, and then we're building semantic models off of that. Our data is coming from the lake house. So that, and honestly, that way, a few workspaces, you're going to be able to see redundancy very quickly. Because unlike Power BI, where all my sources, maybe I was using data flows, but I would be, it was so hard to see, especially even with the lineage view, to see, okay, this semantic model is connected to this SQL database. Great. That SQL database has 1,500 tables in it. So I don't know which table they're using. I don't, that doesn't, everyone's using that database. So
yes.
With the lineage now, it's like, hey, notice that you're building these marketing reports. What lakehouse did you build? Well, this is the marketing lakehouse. This is what everyone's using to grab their, basic storage data. You can transform if you want, but it's coming from here. Yeah. And to me, that's where the focus is. And then you start looking at migration and, where the, how many reports overlap, because that at that point too, Mike, it's also a audience/content thing too, where I literally just said this at my session. The last thing is, and I always love this hot take, where if you have a report and you cannot think of 2 to 3 questions that report answers, it does not need to exist. It has no reason to exist.
That's true.
So, but that happens after we've set up the new flow of data, the new stream of data coming through Fabric. That doesn't happen during.
How do you handle things you don't know, Tommy, yet? Like in that scenario, right? I mean, there's like polished publishing reports, right? If this report doesn't answer some specific questions, and actually I think honestly there should be an overview page on a lot of these reports stating the purpose of this report. Why here are some questions you may want to find answers to in this report. I think that's a really good example, Tommy. Like I like that idea. But to me, that's a polished, built report. When I'm sometimes doing internal reporting or just things that are for me, right? I'm somewhat doing reporting builds around just discovery. I don't understand what data is there. I'm trying to figure out the statistics of this table. Like sometimes I have reporting that doesn't really answer specific questions. I'm just doing a discovery, an exploration. So I think that's a different type of reporting. I wouldn't limit you in like, I think there's definitely reasons for having both answering questions and real insights to do day-to-day work. But there's also this idea of discovery and exploration. I don't really come in with a specific question. I just kind of come in with curiosity and want to dig around. So I maybe take a little bit of issue with your comment there about some things.
Okay. I think that's fair, but I think at the very least you're starting with where's our data actually come from, and it's not coming from the lake house.
Yes, I think that is the fundamental shift that I see here in this situation is you have to really come to terms with we're going to move away from import, Power Query, data flows Gen 2, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to move away from that and we're going to start saying, where do we land the data? Here, I think comes a good question that we were talking with Brad about data warehousing and SQL endpoints, right? That was a really good conversation on the podcast. I think this really piques my interest a lot more around, yes, we're saying Lakehouse, Tommy, in this regard. I think lakehouses are good for batch loading, nightly loads, lots of data, storing all the information. I also think there's a strong story here to say, well, once you've loaded the data multiple times or storing all the information inside the lakehouse, maybe silver and gold could live in the data warehouse and moving more towards a structured table layer. I have found immense success with like loading files to the storage account that are like JSON or API calls. If you make an API call, save the result of the API call to the lakehouse. I think it makes a lot of sense. When you start getting into structured tables, I'm liking more and more the ability to use just SQL to do transformations, make tables, insert, update, merges. There's a lot of other really rich SQL level things that we can be using here inside Fabric that I think make it much easier for us to consume things directly into Power BI reports or semantic models for that matter. So I think I'm a bit more playing with more of the items now. I used to be totally, to your point, Tommy, I used to be totally like everything Lakehouse, everything notebooks, everything data flows, Gen 2. It has to get to the Lakehouse as quickly as you can. I still think that's a story, but I'm looking at more opportunities to find other places where I can start looking at, okay, well, maybe we do put gold in a data warehouse. Maybe that does make sense. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now is I'm blending more of the tools together because it's so easy to use different tools for the different purposes.
I would completely agree. I think that's part of the maturity and the journey, but let me ask you this then. Would you, in this person's shoes, you are just learning about Fabric.
Sure.
You've been Power BI. This is not Mike with the knowledge that he has now. Are you setting up or focusing on trying to get a warehouse set up along with everything you're doing with the Lakehouse as well? Would that be one of your major initial focuses?
I'm going to go back, Tommy, to what I said kind of at the beginning of the podcast. The very beginning here is before I start jumping in and saying, let's go all in on Lakehouse, let's go all in on these builds of things, I'm going to probably take a very detailed look at what is already out there and, just really affirming these suspicions. And I think my opinion here, the suspicions this person writes out are probably exactly right. There's importing the same tables multiple times. We're looking at the same source multiple times. We're doing slightly different logic in those imports to transform data multiple times. I think there's a lot of redundancy that's being built into the system that you just can't observe. So I would take a really concerted effort to say, let's try to get a really good view of all the things that are being created. I would probably turn on Fabric. I would use Semantic Link Labs. I would scrape all the workspaces. I would scrape all of the models. I would get all of the columns and definitions of the measures and column definitions. And I would just put all that in one place. And then I would kind of stand back and say, okay, now that we have semantic models and we have all the definitions of said semantic models, let's go after some scanner APIs and let's scan usage. So then let's attach numbers back to semantic models. So I think I would need to say, let's just take a holistic look at our company in Power BI. Here's all the things we have. Here's how many times they're being used. That, to me, I think will indicate right away how bad the problem is and how much redundant stuff we're seeing. So that's just kind of my initial look at this, is just to start there and say, that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start exploring that stuff.
Huh. So we're going to start with our whole landscape.
But I think you start with looking at everything that's there. You don't build it all, right? So this is just investigation, just to understand what you have in your current solution. Because what I think you are going to find is there's like we've talked about this before, Tommy, like the pyramid of reporting, right?
Oh, yeah.
The bottom layer of the reporting is like minimal effort, minimal value, but there's a lot of it. Like it's a huge foundation. There's going to be tons of models, things that are not even refreshing anymore, stuff that's no longer being updated. Like, why does it exist? Does it still need to be there? And yes, it imported a table a year ago, but it hasn't refreshed in 6 months. Odds are that report's not adding any value anymore to you. So like those kind of things are like, I'm looking for that stuff to say how much of this base layer of stuff is just trash that we don't need to look at. Then we start talking about layers that are up. And so we get further up the pyramid. And as you look at, again, I'm going to Matthew Roach's data warehousing modeling examples, right? He has this idea of when you have reports that have a large audience or very important audience, that's where you should be putting your effort. I don't want to be spending a lot of time on reports that get just 1 or 2 views a month. I want to be spending my time on the reports that are getting hundreds of views, or executives are looking at, or people are making we're hiring or firing people based on decisions that come out of this report. Like that's an important report. We got to spend time making sure that thing's always working and has exactly the right numbers. So we're not letting people go that we don't need to and losing talent in our company. Talent is going to be so important inside our companies moving forward. We're going to need to have people who know our business, and we need to retain them and make them happy. So that, to me, I'm looking to how can I spend my time and serve the most amount of people.
Dude, I love it. And I guess I'm trying to look at one more thing in the mailbag in here. And some of this too is just also about the people involved at the end of the day, because honestly, if you don't have the right team, like we always talk a lot about the technology and obviously the new features, but a lot of this too is your team culture is someone has to take a lead, someone has to take initiative, and know what they're doing, or there's no technology that's going to be able to solve that, human error, human behavior kind of thing, because that's what you're dealing with too, is whichever route someone goes is also get it written down, figure out a common process that everyone can agree to, and then make sure that you have a way to actually roll it out.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Tommy. There's going to be a huge, not challenge. It's going to be a huge effort for you to go back and forth between, making sure that you've got teams that know what they're doing, and then the data culture part of this, and then talking about the data. So the data part is part of this story. But to this last part of the question, I think you were alluding to the very last statement. How do I kick things off on the right foot and influence team culture? That's the part that I think I would like to give some, final thoughts on this one. In order to impact team culture, you have to be leading by example. You have to get leadership buy-in at the executive level. Someone at the top has to be like, this is a good thing for us to spend time and money on. We will support it. There will be a bit of painfulness. There will be some friction and challenges. We're going to have to do things differently. I really think leadership needs to step in and say that, to give confidence to the team that we're going the right direction. So that's something that has to happen. If you don't already have a center of excellence where you're describing what you're doing, what you're building, what's next on the roadmap, I think it's a huge value for communicating up the chain to leadership. Hey, leadership, here's what we're going to be building. Here's the first series of tasks that we think are going to be important to the business to build lake houses of tables. This is our milestone. So having that stated and publicly available communicates to leadership, you know what you're doing. On the way down, leadership down, it also communicates and gives confidence to people that, hey, we're looking at better ways of doing things. Here are the rules of engagement on how to get access to these new tables that are going to be more complete, longer series of time. It's going to be easier to connect to, right? You start touting the values of why you're doing these things, but you communicate that downwards. So every company that I've stepped into and they're asking me like, hey, can you build this thing? I'm like, sure. But I always ask them tell me where your center of excellence is. And some of them have them, some of them don't. And so I request from them, give me a Confluent site, give me a SharePoint site, give me some place where I can localize the information and knowledge that I'm producing into a common spot. And every single company that I've done this with, they like what we've done. They continue on building the center of excellence. They take the examples that we've given them, like definitions of common terms, training videos that we've done, how to connect to semantic models, like the economy, the attention commodity around what you can do with video now is amazing. Like you can literally record a meeting showing people how to use a report, publish it on the site.
Dude, that's the best tip.
It's easy. Like you have to do it anyways. Why not record that meeting and put it somewhere where people can see it? And that way, if someone has questions about it, you could just push a link to it. Hey, we've just released this new report. Remember we were talking about that overview page, Tommy? Here's the questions this report could answer. Here's some visuals you may want to look at. Oh, by the way, if you want to see Tommy running and building things in the report, click this link, watch the video, and here we go. The video's there. Microsoft has made it so easy to create, edit, snip, create videos with Clipchamp now built into your Microsoft 365. It's almost,
whether you want it or not. Yep.
It's so easy. And Teams will provide summaries, and Teams Premium will let you aggregate the data. Like it's all this really rich stuff that you can easily just put this content down and people can get value from it immediately. So that's the kind of stuff I'm thinking about, Tommy. It's like I'm thinking about, okay, the culture starts with you. The culture starts with leadership. Leadership says we're going to buy into it. We're going to let you build this space for you to invest your time and effort to maintain and build documents. Put up your procedures. How do you request a workspace? How do you request to get access to Fabric? Those are the kind of things you start with, and then you can build on top of that. And then the next time someone says, hey, you've got this wonderful thing that you're building. Great. That's so cool. Where do I get information on getting Fabric? Oh, right here. We already have a site built for you with some general information on how to get access. Ask your manager, fill out this form, do these things, right? Here's the process we're going to follow. Clear as day. So that kind of stuff, I think, instills culture and starts shifting the culture in the right direction.
Dude, I love that. And even with the video thing, I remember you saying that years ago, that if you ever had to tell someone more than twice, if they asked a question, you made a 5-minute video.
Yep.
Those became one of the most popular things that we had. But honestly, man, it's right. Like this is just going back to who's going to take an initiative again. And you and I were lucky enough to be those people that were like, you know what? No one's asking for a champion, but I am going to be that champion, and just kind of took the lead.
Yep.
And this is going to require it too, because there's just more places and more, features, things to build than ever. And just having an approach, having a buy-in, that's where this is going to be solved or lost.
Again, I'll just pick on here Microsoft a little bit. They have this thing called Purview, and they have this thing called One Lake Catalog. One of the things I think that Microsoft has done a little bit poorly compared to like other companies like Databricks. Databricks has kind of re-envisioned this whole Unity catalog experience of, hey, there's a discoverability thing. There's a central place that has all the management. Microsoft does the same thing. It just managed slightly different, right? So it's not Purview. It could be One Lake Catalog, but what you have access to just automatically shows up in these cataloging areas. I think Microsoft could get a little bit better on adding more metadata to tables. I'd really like to see something integrated with OneLake catalog where we have like column names and descriptions and primary keys and foreign keys. There's some missing metadata I think we need to have in the OneLake that would make that story a little bit more compelling. But at the end of the day, I think Fabric is a really useful tool to you. Your company needs to figure out, is this worth the extra spend? Because it will cost you more to put in Fabric than staying with the current pattern that you have today currently. So you have to really evaluate, as you're rethinking this solution, are the advantages you're going to get for adding real-time, lakehouse, common storage of information, pipelines that reuse, faster load times, right? Git integration. Like, though, you have to really wrestle with those features and say, are those features valuable enough to the organization for us to move away from pure Power BI Pro licensing and now add additionally Fabric as well? And if you're a bigger company, I think it does make sense because you get Fabric at an F64 level. You can start sending free users to PowerBI.com to go use the Fabric environments. So an F64 is like an unlock moment if you get to that scale. So if you're already in a big enough scale where you know you're going to go get an F64, I think Fabric's a really good opportunity to look at it, because then you could remove a lot of Power BI Pro licenses and stick with the F64. So you've really got to do an evaluation. Like, what's the size of your company? Larger size companies, I think they're going to definitely want to go with Fabric and those larger end SKUs, and then turn off those Power BI Pro users and distribute content directly through the Fabric licensing. Again, that's another whole podcast in and of itself.
Can of worms, yeah. Can of worms.
Anyways, final thoughts here. Start with the data culture. Start with executive leadership. Make sure you have buy-in there. Focus on those areas first, because once you have culture moving in the right direction, Fabric and distribution and data handoff, I think, will become much easier for your organization. You'll have a much better story to spend the time and the effort to centralize and can make this stuff more consistent. Tommy, any final thoughts for you?
I think Fabric's a great opportunity, especially in this scenario, to think differently about how data has been working and almost start fresh. But it's a conceptual change where, again, what do we hold most dear? Where does data flow from? And it used to be the semantic model. Semantic model is still absolutely essential, but it allows people to finally think differently. But that has to come through education, training, and just plain old marketing. So
I would agree with that. There's a lot of marketing that goes along with this new world. You want people to use the things that you're going to be producing. That being said, thank you all very much for taking the time today. This was a great mailbag question. We really want to encourage you to use the mailbag. We have a link in the description here. If you have a question, please use that link. Go to the website, fill out the form, ask your question. We would love to unpack your ideas and your questions as you're going through migrations or Power BI challenges or Fabric challenges. We like to unpack and think through these things. Most challenges, Tommy and I probably have already seen. So you're probably going to get at least an opinion about one of those challenges you're facing. So we'd love for you to engage in that way and fill out the form. We know your time is valuable. Please make sure you like and subscribe to our channel if you want to hear more of this. Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You can find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating. It helps us out a ton. Do you have a question, idea, or a topic that you want us to talk about in a future episode? Head over to powerbi.tips/podcast, leave your name and a great question. And finally, join us live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Central, and join the conversation on all of Power BI Tips social media channels.
Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.